introduce a new idea that changes the video game industry, it appears to me that most AAA games are the memes our parents post on Facebook, a decade-old idea filled with ads and microtransactions of Farmville-esque quality. I used to hope that with increased budgets and record-breaking profits, those companies would take bigger risks and swings when it came to new ideas in the industry. However, we know this isn't true. AAA game companies want safe bets to appease their shareholders, just so a few executives can buy another yacht as they lay off more labor the same year. Look at this year, for example. Many critics have said that this is possibly one of the greatest years of gaming we've experienced in a long while. With too many games setting new gold standards for the video games that come after it, we can't even fit all of them in the nomination list for the Game Awards. SpiriTTea is a game developed by a 6-person team known as Cheese Master Games. What they have created is not a perfect game in any sense, but they have successfully created with a small workforce and small budget a good new idea. A new project that is clearly backed with a lot of love and passion for its creation. An idea that still stands as a game you can enjoy and feel satisfied with, as the hours per dollar of content that you're getting is a good ratio. So let me tell you what this idea is all about in SpiriTTea. I found this game on Game Pass for PC, looked at the first 3 screenshots, skipped the trailer, and started up the game like a psychopath, with the idea that this was a Harvest Moon game with a yokai collection game mechanic added for novelty. I did not get that, but I realized later it was for the best. You name yourself and the town you are going to, then realize you are a high fantasy writer who finds themselves needing to take care of a bathhouse. A spirit bathhouse. So yes, the new idea is that you have to manage a Spirited Away style bathhouse, with that bathhouse being your main income maker in the game, not the classic farming trope. So knowing that a new idea had been introduced to me, I was given many new game mechanics I have not experienced before. For example, to start up the bathhouse, you will need to ring a bell to notify the spirits that they can come in. The bathhouse functions with you taking a bath towel from a spirit who has one, then place them in one of the baths you have fixed. They then have a progress bar that goes down slowly to tell you when they are about to leave. When a spirit leaves, they give you money in the tip jar and they throw your dirty towels in a big hamper. You then clean and dry those towels to use again to continue the cycle of running a spirit bathhouse. Now, there's a lot more game mechanic that I'll introduce to you later, but originally when I played this game, I thought that the idea was good on paper, but it would be more good in the novelty of the idea versus the idea being good in itself. So knowing that I'm here doing a review with you, I want to say that as I explained these game mechanics to you, it became very evident and clear that there was a lot of thought process into trying to improve the gameplay for the user, making it so that someone like me, who isn't really into Harvest Moon or Animal Crossing games, can find enjoyment in this one. And I think that commitment to try to get somebody who might not be into those types of games to enjoy it is something I think deserves to be shared and told about. So here are some of the game mechanics I really like in SpiriTTea. So when you start out, you get a dog that actually helps you find the NPCs in the town that you're in to complete a quest. There's many games I played before this, like Harvest Moon, Graveyard Keeper, and My Time at Perthia, where you don't have this luxury. And because this quality of life feature is so nice, it makes me wonder why this hasn't been implemented in literally any previous game I have played personally, when it comes to the farm sim always having the introduction to the people of the town quest. You would think that having the hundreds of hours of padding with the farming would be enough, but no, these developers have to have you comb and scout the area for 2.5 hours to find one stupid NPC in a well. It is something that I have hated so much in these games, and even though I haven't seen it in these games that are very positive, so many people love those games, this is the only game that fixes this issue, and I must appreciate it to its full capacity because it deserves it. It really does deserve it. You then realize you can actually brew a SpiriTTea brew to increase your spirit vision. These powers of seeing spirits and having this now vision meter is used constantly in the task board missions to find and help people with their spirit-related problems. This creates an even bigger cycle than just the bathhouse, because most times when you complete a mission, you actually get a new spirit to add as a customer to your bathhouse. So the more tasks you complete on the task board, the more spirits you get, the more complex the game mechanics are in the bathhouse, and the more money you get all around. I also like the use of minimal UI. Something I haven't seen in many video games, but this one does do it well, is that you actually have a spirituality XP bar. The XP bar, though, is actually in the bathhouse as a tree branch that grows from left to right to a blue stone. The rock also holding that blue stone has little flower buds that will actually bloom to indicate your level of spirituality. The idea of reducing all the extra bars that you could have in your UI because they're not needed is greatly appreciated. The only UI you really need is, your time and the stamina meter that when it goes down, you pass out, right? And so when I saw it in this game, I was pretty happy. You also have ways, though, of automating the bathhouse experience. Now there's like towel running, cleaning, drying of the towels, cutting wood to keep the fire burning so that the bathhouse pool water are nice and warm for the spirits to have a nice bath experience. However, there is one thing you can do. Compared to other games where if you romance someone, you can actually like date them and marry them. In this game, it's more of a friendship meter, and when you get people to fully be a friend, you get gifts, and then after that, when you become best friends, you can then ask them to help you at the bathhouse. Now you can automate all of these things besides you, the player, taking the towels from the spirits and sending them to which place that they're going to take a bath at. However, while this is a good idea, I feel like there could have been more ways to implement passive buffs, because I started friending more people because I was like, oh, maybe there's some way to have even more people on one task, but you can only have one person at a time at each task. And because this game is very free in what you can do, you can beat this game without doing some of the big things that are indicated to you, like getting the big spirits where you have to actually go to shrines, give offerings to these shrines, and you get these big boss spirits where you can actually get tons of money from them. Last thing I want to say is that you can pour elixirs in baths to help spirits have a better experience, but one of the indicators of using elixirs is actually to clean some of the baths. You actually have to clean them with the elixirs so that your spirits have a better time and you get more money in the end. Now, when it comes to spirits in the bathhouse, you realize that a spirit from spring and summer will like each other, but a spirit from summer to the opposite winter will hate each other. And because the only way to get this information from the spirits is to actually just straight up find these scrolls through this digging that is very just backwards and horrible. I never really liked it. You go to your spirit mode and there's different colors on the outside of your perimeter of the soil that kind of tells you where to dig, but a lot of the stuff is lock gate from an area that you only unlock super late in the game, and it made it not that enjoyable for me to actually experience. So realistically, you're gonna be like me, writing down notes on your piece of paper, figuring out that these spirits like these spirits, this spirit likes this spirit, and you'll have a huge long list, but it will make things a lot easier to be like, okay, this goes here, and you don't have to memorize all of it, because it gets very complicated very quickly when you start completing the missions more, so that you have an abundance of new spirits as customers to your bathhouse. Last thing I'll say is that the missions are fun because they do give you different mechanics and mini games you wouldn't expect actually being in the game, but those are only for the missions. I kind of wish they would have implementations of those things more, because right now it's just the main quests and that is pretty much all you have. I would like to get into some of the problems though I had with this game. Missions were sometimes soft locked for me at certain times, or certain town inhabitants would only be in the town during a certain season. This problem is amplified by the missions being confusing at times, as you have to talk to a certain someone to progress through a storyline to finish it. The problem would arise that that certain person would not make much sense to me when it came to their involvement in the mission that I was doing. So in several instances, it just feels like I have to talk to every single NPC in the town to find find the one NPC that is never mentioned from the mission giver, which of course is needed for me to finish the quest and get the ending. I will give some praise though, as you have a notebook that tells you when a mission is complete, which is great, for if I did not have that, I would be even more confused on what I'm supposed to do or if I did enough to actually finish a quest. However, I would not have finished this game if I did not have the help of YouTube walkthroughs and the Steam discussion boards to put me on the right track with some of these elusive and confusing quests. Another issue is that collectibles are only attainable during a specific season, which is fine in most games. However, in SpiriTTea, versus it being something that you can show in your aquarium or get trophies or something like that, it does block you off some pretty big content, like getting the big spirit bosses, you could call them, to come to your spirit bathhouse. A way to fix this is that there is a secret shop in this game, and I wish those items were in the shop, which is very expensive. I think it's always good when a game has different paths on how to get something. When it comes to this being such big content that you're locking us, the players, from getting to, unless, I don't know, I put a bunch more hours into this game, which I just do not care to do. I just care to have fun, and I feel like if I tried to actually get all the collectibles, I would stop having fun. Personally, for myself. Third issue is that I actually appreciate that they added the elixir to clean the dirty baths from a certain spirit. However, they don't really do this with food, so I never really got an understanding of how much money you would get by giving a spirit their favorite type of food, as there was no incentive for me to risk wasting that much time for it to be barely an increase in any money, versus the elixir quest, which was just a straight up mission and make that elixir for said quest. It really got me to learn it with more purpose and more story behind it versus something on the sidelines that I just don't really care to do. I could already see I was making more money via getting more spirits, so realistically it did not matter too much for me if I started slowly buying each of the ingredients and making food for those said spirits. There also wasn't anything that said it would automate the cooking of that for the said spirits. I feel like if that was in the game when I played it, I would be more inclined to buy the ingredients, shove it into the fridge, try to get another friend to best friend status, and then give them the job as cook. Because there is cooks who own restaurants in the game, so I feel like that would be a perfect progression with lore and game functionality meeting in the middle and making a very good synergy in the game's mechanics. Now, the biggest issue for me in this game is how to boost affinity with the villagers. There are two fixed choices that each villager has to increase their affinity. Digging works for the first couple of ones that you find, but because most of the digging spots are locked until like mid to end game to an area you have to unlock that I was talking about in a previous section of this video, it kind of becomes useless later on, as there is just no more digging spots to dig up for increasing the affinity of the person that you're with. One of those options is also locked away from you, which is going into the hot spring. You get that way later in the game in that same area I was talking about. And so realistically, it's like, okay, if it's digging and they have the hot bath spring thing, then you just can't increase their affinity whatsoever. There's nothing. You can't give them gifts. You can't do anything like that. A lot of the ways to increase affinity for these villagers were just not enjoyable for me. And it could be different for you if you played SpiriTTea, but for me, they weren't that enjoyable. And then some of them that are enjoyable, like the cooking restaurant minigame, would be problematic because every single time the villager was free to do stuff, the restaurant would be closed. And so it's just like, so what's the point of being free and having those two options if every time you're free to me, you can't actually go to the restaurant to increase affinity there? I wish the notebook had something like a schedule that you could learn. This whole idea of not being able to ask the person what their schedule is or set up something like that makes no sense to me. It feels shallow. It feels like it wasn't developed properly, and it makes the game less fun for me. If I wanted to play something like that where you have to guess what you want to do through trial and error only, I would go back to PlayStation 1. I think these games need to modernize and realize that the enjoyment of discovery of somebody's schedule to eat noodles with them in a restaurant is just not as valued as it was in the early 2000s. For I do not want to stare at these virtual entities like a stalker morning to night throughout an entire week just to learn their schedule. It's not something that is realistic in a world and makes me believe that it's real because I just can't ask them for their schedules. It's weird to me that a game like this about making friends has such limiting things built into it to make you more of a stalker than a friend. However, To finish off this review, let's go into the little things I really did enjoy in this game that I think boosted the score for me quite a bit. The music in this game goes from lo-fi hip-hop to heavily inspired Joe Hisaishi pieces, the main composer for a lot of the Studio Ghibli pictures. So I do get a super relaxing, nostalgic feedback loop into my brain that makes this game quite enjoyable to play just because I get to listen to such good music. This music also gives me a lot more patience to deal with some of the negative aspects this game has. So I feel like it is an important thing to note because it is making it more bearable and decreasing the size of the negative problems to me to something more small and manageable. When you buy an upgrade for a chest and fridge for your spirit bathhouse that is in your house, those chests are linked inventory, which I love. I realized this later. I expected it wouldn't be that. So when I saw that that was a thing that was in the game, I think that's a big deal for me. I hate the whole idea of having to pick up things and then take 10 minutes to walk from your house to the bathhouse. I love the fact that increasing affinity actually gets you a helper at the bathhouse. I love this other take that leads to not romance but friendship, as it's a common trope that it's always friendship and then romance. So the idea it's friendship and then best friends that actually help you automate an entire system in the game, I really do appreciate that little thing. The stories to go through to get new spirits is varied enough that I always was curious what the next story would be. You would get new mini games and game mechanics for specific quests that made them feel more refreshing and nuanced and different from each other than, let's say, just increasing the affinity of a villager. Going back to increasing the affinity of a villager, I did like that there is different parts, so different levels of affinity, and every time you would level up, besides getting the best friend trait, you would actually get decorations you could put inside your house. I love this aspect of seeing my progress in an unconventional trophy room that is the house that you're in. I enjoy that the spirits also do idle animations when they're in the bathhouse, something that could be not done due to laziness, but it does give more life to the game when you're seeing all these different animations, and it kind of makes you curious of like what the idle animation would be for more spirits as they enter the bathhouse, as you get them more from doing missions. However, I want to conclude my observations and notes and give you my final remarks on SpiriTTea. When I started this review talking about the idea of SpiriTTea, the idea is one that I feel like, if executed very well, could be a Game of the Year contender. However, knowing how small the team is, and this being the second major project that Cheesemaster Games has made, I'm going to be more lenient on this game and give it a 7 out of 10. Hey, if you're watching this far in the video, thank you so much. I had gone through 2 entire games, writing the reviews and then scrapping them. The last video I released was in November, and here we are. Maybe this video will be to you in February, maybe late January, if I'm lucky. I had to go through 2 entire game reviews, scrapping them. First one being SCP Secret Files, which had some drama, so I did not care to delve in that whole can of worms. I also played a game called Walking Zombie 2, which was like a free-to-play mobile game that got ported to Steam, where it was fun and it was ramping up to be something very cool in the middle, but they definitely rushed it towards the end. So because it loses so much momentum, I decided to shelf that review as well, which led me to playing the third game, SpiriTTea. I do have some good news though. Game Pass on PC has released a ton of super interesting indies that I want to play. Here are some of the titles on screen that you can see right now that I'm thinking on doing the next review on. I hope you get good rest, I hope you get good sleep, and I hope to find the next game to share with you. See ya.